Um, did it say this is being recorded? I didn't hear
It
anything.
did not, but it has the little recording button flashing now. So,
right, interesting. So that must be the settings on this. Anyway, so welcome everyone to this very exciting session of the Alumni Connect Zoom. We are joined today with our colleague, Dr. Noura Abul-Husn, who is an alum of multiple different programs at Mount Sinai. And I'll give you a little blurb. So she is a physician scientist whose research program focuses on innovative genomic applications in clinical care and therapeutic discovery. She has expertise in electronic health records and genomics to improve prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of disease. Her work has been published in leading journals, including Science, Cell, and the New England Journal of Medicine. And her goal is to develop evidence-based scalable solutions to integrate genomics into clinical care and drive the equitable delivery of genomic medicine. Dr. Abul-Husn is Associate Professor of Medicine and of Genetics and Genomic Sciences at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, and is the founding chief of the Division of Genomic Medicine in the Department of Medicine and clinical director for the Institute for Genomic Health. She has a BSc honors in life sciences and an MSc in pharmacology from Queen's University in Canada, and completed her MD and PhD and residency in internal medicine and medical genetics at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. She is board certified in internal medicine and medical genetics, and I'm hoping will also tell us about her interesting story of how she left Mount Sinai and then came back. So
she will.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent. So if everyone would like to briefly introduce themselves and their current state of training, I can go first. I'm Talia Swartz, and I am a graduate with Dr. Abul-Husn. We are colleagues from training. We
won't say for how long.
We won't say for how long, but it's been quite a few years. And I am the vice president of the Alumni Association and the co-director of the MD PhD program, where I am a physician scientist myself. Jasmine, I see you next. Would you like to go next?
What a privilege. Thank you. I'm Jasmine Huang. Currently, I'm doing PhD in clinical research program, and I finished my MD and residency in China, trained to be a cataract surgeon. So I have joined, just also briefly, explain how I got connected with Alumni Connect. And I joined a few sessions so far, and I found extremely helpful and inspiring. So I'm very looking forward today to hear, especially the physician scientist, Dr. Abul-Husn sharing with us. So thank you. I'm very excited.
Thank you for joining.
Excellent. Wonderful. Jaya, is that how you pronounce it?
Hi, I'm Jaya.
Jaya, sorry.
No worries. I'm a lab genetics and genomics fellow here, and I'm really excited to hear your story because I've read a lot of your papers and it's very inspiring. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jaya. Nice to meet you.
You have a fan club.
Oh, so nice. I love this. Let's do this all the time.
Excellent. Samuel, do you?
Hi. Yeah. So I'm a MS2 at Sinai and trying to figure out, I guess, what I'd like to go into, and medical genetics is really high up there for me. And so I just kind of wanted to hear more about someone who's in the field and their career. So thanks for having me.
You're a student?
Yes, I'm a second year medical student.
Oh, got it. Very nice. Nice to meet you.
Great. Is it Tiffane?
Tiffane, I know. Tiffane, introduce yourself.
So I'm Tiffane. I'm postdoc on oncological science, and I was privileged to work also with Noura on the project for cancer determination of a variant inside PTEN gene. So yeah, I'm happy to hear more, to know more Noura another way.
Thanks for joining, Tiffany.
Excellent, great, thank you. And Nima.
Hi, everyone. I'm a first-year MD PhD student, background in kind of computational physics, trying to figure out how I want to apply it. And I was actually speaking with Andrew Kasarskis about a week ago, and he spoke so highly of you. So I just wanted to look more into.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you, Nima. Thank you all so much for joining. It's such an honor to talk to trainees at Mount Sinai. I'm really excited to share my perspectives, and hopefully everybody gets something out of this.
Great, wonderful. So why don't you tell us about your path?
My journey.
Yeah, your journey.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you about my path, and you should feel free to interrupt and ask questions, and please make this interactive. I don't want to hear myself talk for the next 20 minutes. So I grew up, I'll start at the beginning. I grew up in the Middle East, in Dubai, and then moved to Montreal when I was in school. And so I did, my education in Dubai mostly in Arabic, and then in Montreal in French, and then went to university in Canada in English. And I went to Queen's University, which is a really lovely school in the middle of Ontario. And I did life sciences. And at the time I really was interested in science, and it just seemed like medicine could make sense, but I wasn't sure that that was necessarily the right path for me. So I did, a life sciences program. It was really interesting. I started doing some research at the end of it, and still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with life. So I took that research into a master's in pharmacology, and my research was in drug addiction. And it was really very much a behavioral, like, wet lab experience. It was also fantastic. And at that point, I realized that research was very much my passion, and that's what I wanted to do. But I also was really wanting more of a clinical slant to my research. And I felt that these really exciting opportunities to do an MD and PhD at the same time made a lot of sense. And I think I've told this to tell you before, I often think that it was some element of indecisiveness that led me to that path. And, maybe that's maybe that's something in all of us to do a dual degree like that. But I thought I wanted to do both. And so I applied to some schools. This wasn't something that was really available in Canada. And actually the one place that what had an MD PhD program that I remember applying to and interviewing at University of Toronto, at the time they said to me, one of my interviewers said, "Why would you even want to do that? Most of our MD PhDs drop out of the PhD part," or something like that. It was not very encouraging. And then I came to Mount Sinai, interviewed here, and it was just really wonderful. And I met people like Talia and others who were already at Mount Sinai and potential mentors. And it seemed like a really good fit. And luckily the feeling was mutual, and I was accepted into the MD PhD program. And so I moved to New York, not knowing anybody, not having any family in New York or anything like that, and came here to never again leave. Except I did leave for a little bit. So I did my MD PhD. The PhD part I did also in drug addiction with a mentor who is still here at Mount Sinai, Dr. Lakshmi Devi, who is one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and continues to be a mentor and friend and a support for me as I've moved on in my career. So, first piece of unsolicited advice: find a really great mentor for your studies, research, clinical, whatever it is. It's so important. And I thought that I would do something related to that on the clinical side. At this point, I was getting more interested in medicine. I thought I would do a residency. I still wasn't sure I wanted to be a doctor. It wasn't, my lifelong dream, but it made sense to me. I thought I would maybe go into psychiatry. And then I didn't love that clinically. Then I thought neurology, and I almost went into neurology. And then I made a decision kind of late to go into medicine and genetics, because this was yet another way that I could combine things that I really liked. And internal medicine was just one of the most incredible experiences I had in my medical training, actually remember very clearly a rotation that I had with Dr. Swartz, who's sitting here in front of you, and I was the sub-I, and you were the intern, I believe, at Elmhurst. And it was just one of the best months of my life. It really was, even though there was a lot of lack of sleep, but very good Thai food, the best Thai food. Oh my God, I miss it. So then I loved medicine and I wanted to do medicine, but I also really loved genetics. My PhD had been in proteomics, which sort of exposed me to the world of big data and omics in general. And I thought I wanted to do that, and I didn't know that I wanted to necessarily tie in the field of drug addiction or psychiatry, but I wanted to think about what I wanted to do in medicine and include genetics in that. So I did that residency training, and then this was around the time that personalized medicine was becoming a thing. And people were really talking about that. And Mount Sinai was starting to build out a biobank in 2007. So I had not started residency yet at that point, but I was hearing these really exciting things happening here in personalized medicine. And I decided I wanted to do personalized medicine. I didn't really know what that meant exactly, but it sounded really up my alley. So I did residency, and sort of at that time during my residency training got involved in some research in the Institute for Personalized Medicine. We were doing genomic medicine implementation with pharmacogenetics and clinical care, understanding what that would take, and building out this biobank that's now a really enormously valuable resource for our research efforts at Mount Sinai. And then I finished, and then I had to get a job. And so I didn't know what that meant exactly for someone like me who was very specialized at this point as a physician scientist with expertise in personalized medicine. Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I had expertise at that time, but that's what I wanted to do. So I had to figure out what that would look like for me. And there weren't jobs that I could just find online and apply to at that stage. So I was really looking for places in the US that were doing this, like Mount Sinai was, and talking to them and interviewing. There weren't that many. This is a field that's really evolved a lot in the last 10 years. So I had a couple of choices that were interesting. One was at a health system in Pennsylvania that was really very attractive because they have been very much pioneers in genomic medicine. It's called the Geisinger Health System. And I really strongly considered going there to my first faculty position, but I didn't, because it was very rural Pennsylvania. I think I mentioned I grew up in East Montreal, then New York City. That would have been a really jarring change. And also, I don't have any family here still. They're all in the Middle East and Europe. And the idea of being hours away from an airport is really beyond scary to me. So that was just, it was all those reasons, life reasons. And those things really matter, I think, when you're making big decisions like where you're going to take your first big job. So luckily Mount Sinai still really wanted me to stay here. So I stayed, and I took my first faculty position here at Mount Sinai. And then, does anyone have any questions yet? I'll get to where I am now because I did derail at some point. So I did MD, PhD, residency and in genetics, which was a combined residency. And then I took my first job here at Mount Sinai. So at that point, I was all Sinai all the time. And it was wonderful. But I did have some challenges in my first faculty position. And one was that I had this really broad vision for what I wanted to do. And this was, personalized medicine, precision medicine, genomic medicine. And I had some mentorship at Mount Sinai, but it wasn't quite what I needed to build out that vision. So, it was working fine, and I think could have been fine. But I was in a place that, I didn't know what else could have been better or worse. I think I was just going with it at the time. And I remember, Talia, I would have some conversations with you about what does the future look like for us? And then an opportunity came my way, and it was very unexpected. The Regeneron Pharmaceuticals had just built out a subsidiary called Regeneron Genetics Center, and they were rapidly becoming one of the largest sequencing centers in the world with a very, very broad vision. And they were interested in having me join them to do translational genetics there as a researcher. And it seemed like a really once in a lifetime opportunity that was both very exciting and very scary because I had never considered going into industry. That wasn't one of the things that I ever really thought about. And here it was, now an opportunity had just presented itself. And so I talked to a lot of people about what that would mean and whether this was damaging to someone like me very early in my career to make a jump to industry. And that was my biggest concern. I was wanting to go. I thought it was really exciting, really cool. I could do things with a lot of resources, a lot of vision, and a lot of expertise all in one place. But would that forever close the door for me to come back to academic medicine and research? And I didn't want that to be the case because I didn't know anything about industry. I didn't know if I'd like it. So I talked to some people here. Somebody mentioned Andrew Kasarskas. I can't remember who it was now. He was one of the people I spoke to. There were several others. I spoke to my chairs in genetics and in medicine about the fact that this was something that had come up. I wanted to do it. What did they think? And to my surprise, people were really encouraging. And they said, you have this really broad vision about what you want to do. And if you go somewhere else and you bring back skills that you wouldn't have gained otherwise, I don't think that there would be doors closed to you. It wasn't a promise by any means, but it made the risk feel a little bit less risky to take the jump into industry. So I did decide to go. So I went to Regeneron. I left Mount Sinai and went to Regeneron. I was hired as an associate director of translational genetics. And it was really amazing. I spent 2.5 years there. In that time, I was promoted to director of translational genetics. I was running a small team of human geneticists doing research. And I had made some really interesting findings using really large scale genomic data that just wasn't available anywhere else. And I was completely disconnected from patient care, which was something that I missed. So that was the negative part. But I really loved Regeneron. I think it was a fantastic experience. And I had twins while I was there. I already had one child while I was in residency at Mount Sinai, and then I had twins while I was at Regeneron. And by the way, my twins were going to the Mount Sinai daycare, and I was commuting to Terrytown to this job. So that was my link to Mount Sinai while I was not employed here. And then an opportunity again came my way to come back to Mount Sinai in a new role. And now things were a bit different from when I had first started, in that there was a lot of internal investment and vision in genomic medicine, and a lot of what I felt had been missing or not at the stage that it could help me grow into this role was now here. And I was also bringing a whole heap of expertise that I'd gained in very different environments back into the picture. So I came back. And now I've been back here at Mount Sinai for almost 3 years, coming this May. And in that time, we had started a center for genomic health. It became an institute for genomic health. We launched this new division of genomic medicine that Talia mentioned, that I'm leading. And we've been doing a lot of really exciting things in genomics. And my role in all of that is to understand how can we bring genomic medicine to fruition in this health system. How can we do it for our diverse patient populations that we serve? A lot of that type of work has been done in predominantly European descent patients or populations, and it's really time to broaden our perspective in genetics and genomic medicine. So I'm very passionate about that. And here I am. I'm stopping now. I said a lot.
Thank you. Wow. So there's so much that we could ask about. Would anyone like to jump in?
Yeah, I'm curious, your experience at Regeneron, do you feel like there's obviously a lot of uncertainty around that situation. But how do you feel about it? Looking back, do you feel like it has really helped you in your academic position now? Like, were there kind of lessons learned there that has like made you a better academic researcher, or do you think that was like just a unique experience that, you know, was good, but, you know, something side off?
Yeah, great question. Do you go by Sam or Samuel?
Sam works.
Sam works? Okay, great question, Sam. I think that my experience at Regeneron, I don't know how much you can generalize from that, to be honest, in industry, because what I joined was very much a startup. It was this small group of people who were experts, all coming from academia, to start something around genetics that was industry funded. And so the other thing that I'll say about Regeneron is that it is a very rigorously scientific place in general. The leadership have built that entire company based on rigorous science. So for me, absolutely, I learned a ton while I was there. I wasn't very strong in statistical genetics because that's just not something that I had been formally trained in at Mount Sinai or during my trajectory. There was a very, very strong team of statistical geneticists that I worked closely with. So I gained a lot from that experience. I also learned about corporate culture and how parts of it can work really well. And like it or not, academia is a business too, but you don't learn about it that way. And there isn't that formal, you know, business school model, but we're all part of a huge enterprise. And, you know, we can call it an academic medical center, but it still is a business that has to be run, and there are rules that have to be followed to make it successful. So I came to appreciate that in a very different way than I think I could have. Probably that experience is gained in a fully academic trajectory, but I think it takes more time than if you're thrust into this like startup corporate world. So those are the things I think that were very meaningful experiences to me. I don't know if this is my only experience in outside of academia is to be at Regeneron. So I don't know if, you know, you take a job at any pharmaceutical company that's necessarily the same thing. So that's what I mean. Like I don't know how much this would generalize broadly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. If I could ask like another quick question on, yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the future of integrating genomic medicine. Like, I feel like recently I read a paper on from CRISPR Therapeutics on treating thalassemia and sickle cell, and it's very exciting. And I'm curious because I guess I'm, as like someone who's like will hopefully one day be a physician, I'm a little afraid of if I were to do medical genetics, having a lot of patients that I couldn't end up actually necessarily having a lot of treatments for, and most would be mostly managing, which I think is great still. But I think for me personally, I kind of envision practicing with kind of ways that cure certain diseases. And it seems like there is definitely a lot of headway and like a lot of really big, exciting things happening. But yeah, I'm curious from your viewpoint on what you think the future looks like.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously I'm going to be biased because I did take that path, but I do think that it's the absolute most exciting time to be a geneticist on the clinical side too, because new therapeutics are well underway, and we're just going to see a huge expansion of that over the next few years. There are so many ways to use CRISPR, Cas9 type approaches and others, and these are going to make it now possible to treat rare disorders in a way that's never been imagined before. And a lot of funding in the past just hasn't gone to rare diseases because it's so expensive to develop therapeutics, and then your market is really small. So I think that the new approaches that we have from a gene editing gene therapy standpoint are changing that paradigm. So, I hear your concerns about genetics being a lot of diagnostics with not a lot of therapeutic options. I don't think that that's a full picture. The other part of it is that genetics is now really touching all kinds of specialties. It's much broader than how the field used to be, where medical genetics was really centered around rare Mendelian diseases, mostly pediatric onset, like inborn errors of metabolism. That's still a big component of it, and you get trained to understand those disorders and treat them, diagnose them and treat them. But there's so much more to it now, and there are opportunities to lead in genetics and to broaden that knowledge in non-genetic specialties that I really enjoy. I often say that there are very few people who are trained in like medicine and genetics like me, so I feel like I have really good job security, frankly. that expertise is needed. Genetics is touching all fields of medicine and will continue to grow. So even though it seems like a small specialty, and it's still like, I see what you're saying, it's still perceived as such, you can find yourself actually being at the center of something much larger.
That's really cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about how it was having a family as you navigated this journey?
I would love to. Yeah, so having a family when you're destined to be in training for half of your life is always an interesting challenge because there's no good time and people just wait for that good time, but I don't know what that good time necessarily is. So I met my husband as an intern, maybe when we were in Elmhurst together. I don't remember. Maybe I was at the VA. I remember I was taking the shuttle somewhere during that time. And I met my husband, who was a chef at a New York City restaurant. And then we were married about 1.5 years later. And then soon after that, I was pregnant with our first child. So I was at that point in my 3rd year of residency, which was actually not a bad time. I think I had her as the combined MD PhD program when I did it, sorry, not the MD PhD program, but the medical genetics and medicine residency was 5 years long. So I think I had Alana, my eldest, when I was a 4th year. It was, what was hard for me was, again, I don't have any family nearby, and we felt pretty isolated from that perspective. She went to the Mount Sinai affiliated daycare, and for the first year of her life, I was pumping in between seeing patients and doing God knows what you're doing as a resident. And I was also running over to the daycare every day at noon to breastfeed her, which I put that on myself. I decided that I needed to do that for some reason. It was very stressful. I don't know that I would do that again, going back in time, but I did. And that kept me feeling connected and as a mom, and allowed me to sort of function. I found it really hard to come back to work and just be normal with a baby. So, I don't know if that helps anyone or scares everyone from having children ever more, but that was my experience. And then, and then we waited a little while before thinking about having more children. And then sort of we're like, well, Lana was at that point like 3.5, like all the details, but I was like, well, we should really think about it. And then I was pregnant again, and then we found out it was twins. And then I thought, my life is, as I know it, is over. I'm going to have to quit my job. What am I supposed to do? It was so stressful having one child, and all of a sudden that was tripling, and that was really, really scary. And I remember I don't remember feeling joy when I found that out. I was really scared, just really sad or like angry, just very fearful of what that meant, because I was super excited about my career, and that meant a lot to me. And I worked so hard to get to this point in it, and I didn't want to compromise that, but I also didn't want to be, a non-present parent. And it's a lot of conflicting feelings. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads from some of you on camera, so maybe this resonates. That was really hard, and then I became really excited because twins is kind of a cool thing also. And then they were born, and then I didn't sleep for 17 months, because I had one twin who just like never didn't sleep. The first time I slept for an entire night after my twins were born was the first conference that I went to, that I left them home, and I slept through the night, and so did they, because I wasn't there. That was amazing. 17 months. And if you ask me details about the first year of their life, or really what was going on at work, I was at Regeneron at this point, I don't remember a lot of it. It is a huge blur of missing information. I have pictures and like things that I've written down, and but a lot of it was just, I think, in a semi-zombie state. I would like basically throw them into daycare, run to the Metro North to get to work, leave there at 4:30 to come back and get them. And I don't even know how I did it. I don't know, but you just do it, right? And you figure it out. And they're fine now. They look older than this. This is an old picture, but they are like really fine. I need to update my pictures in my office, is what this is telling me. And my eldest is 8, and the twins are almost 4, and we're making it work. And yeah, anyway, it's not without its challenges, but it's not easy. No.
Noura, I have a question. So consequently, you show like some challenge to be a woman, mother, and scientist. Do you have other, like, you see some challenge, maybe not necessarily because you are mother, but because you are woman on the academic area, or even it's when you are in industry, or you see, sorry, there's some little noise, other challenge?
Oh, you're on, Noura, you're on mute.
I don't know how that happened. Tiffany, do you mean, so are you asking, do I think there are more challenges in being a woman in industry or in academia rather
Yes.
than a mom? Okay, yeah, I do. I certainly do. I think that it's very challenging, and still is very much a place where there's a lot of room for improvement and equity. So, I think you see that a lot, and there's been so much activity in that broadly, within Mount Sinai, but certainly across the board with the Me Too movement, and having things in place that are bringing to light challenges that women have been facing all along. I've had significant challenges that some of which I am 100% sure I would not have faced if I were a man. And having kids was not one of them at all. I actually think that part was okay. But there are a lot of other things that happened, and I'll give one example that was really not great, and I don't talk about very often, and I'm not going to give very many details, but I'll tell you that while I was at Regeneron, my first 11 months, it wasn't even a year, but like 10 to 12 months or so, had been going really well, and it was like such an exciting time to be there. And because it was small and there weren't that many of us, a lot of us were given, some freedom to drive things and opportunities to build out programs and research activities and leadership in that way. And I really thrived in those kinds of circumstances. And so I took on responsibility and was leading some projects. And that was perceived as threatening by some people who had been there a little bit before me, even though all of us kind of were there not that long from each other. It was a pretty new place, but there was some competition, and I think that that's rather common in the corporate world. It's not uncommon in academia too. People are going to compete who have similar ideas or programs. But this, this became very clear that there were some issues and like some competition, and all of a sudden, I was hearing things like about inappropriate behavior. And rumors about me having had, some inappropriate behavior in the workplace, and that was a reason that I was being given, some additional responsibilities and eventually being promoted. And that was very, very damaging, and actually became a huge issue for the group at large, because it was the kind of behavior that just cannot be tolerated. So it was put to a stop, and that kind of very negative behavior was halted, but to my detriment. It wasn't easy to face that, and definitely that would not have happened if I was a man, definitely. So there are examples like that that have happened. That was a big one. Many small ones, microaggressions all the time, and you learn to deal with a lot, but I think that we're now in a place where we're allowed to challenge as women people who are mistreating us, and I'm definitely going to be someone who does that, because it's not okay, and it's hard enough, right? Tiffany, it's hard enough, like for many reasons, and not just because of parenthood. So I think that we're in a better place now. We still have a long way to go, though.
No, yeah, and you and also Imer to be already on high position, it shows also there's some improvement, and you help also for the other women behind you to have potentially also better path, and hopefully we can stop some behavior, unfortunately.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, and I agree, Tiffany. I think it's so important that women support each other, but also that men support women, and I think that that's the way that we will achieve more equity and less of these problematic encounters and behaviors in the workplace. I'm glad you feel supported.
Thank you.
Related to what you described, oh, Jasmine, I see. So I just will ask briefly, you described the fog of having twins and commuting and trying to keep all the balls in the air. And now it's okay, and it's been a challenge. So what changed in your mind and in your life and in your sleeping that made it possible for you to transition from this sort of survival mode to being able to feel like you're thriving?
I have to say, I don't always feel like I'm thriving. And I think, it's really easy to see everyone's successes all the time on social media. Like every time somebody gets, something great happened to them, it's like now plastered all over social media. And that can be really hard when you're not having a great week, or you just got your paper rejected, or you didn't get that grant, or your kid didn't go somewhere amazing that the other kids are doing, whatever it is. There's like a constant comparison now. And I feel like that makes it an interesting way to live and view yourself and your life and your achievements. I feel like I'm in a better place, and I'm not as stressed out as I was when I first had my first daughter. It was so stressful. I was so stressed out. I think that having twins made me realize that having one child is so easy, actually. And no one can have that perspective unless you've had one. And you're like, why was I freaking out about the one kid? It's so easy. I could do that blindfolded, hands tied behind my back, give me a baby, no problem. 2 babies, that's a problem. But you know, I didn't have that perspective, and when I had the 1 baby, it was a real challenge. So I think that I always say, you know, Talia, I, you know, not that, you know, not to make this like religious or anything, but I always like say that like God looked at me and said, you know, oh, she thinks she's a multitasker. I'm gonna give her twins and see what happens. It was like the cruel joke, but it gave me so much perspective. I think someone new joined us. Hi, Xian. ×2. Anyway, yeah, so I just think that I just maybe relaxed a little bit, and also have better coping mechanisms maybe at this point.
Thank you. Jasmine, I saw you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I do, and I really like your question too. Yeah. Anyway, by now, I'm very, very amazed by your unique, distinguished, outstanding, you know, career path and even your personal experience shared with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I found, yeah, definitely you, I can see the resilience in your character, and also the wisdom from the stories you share with us. Right, I was about to ask, yeah, I have 2 questions for you, and based on you take us back to Regeneron, so I would like to start with the first question. Yeah, I understand the background you introduced with us. Then how you compare the research environment overall in industry?
Research environment?
Yeah, in industry versus academia.
Yeah, I'll answer that first, and then you can ask your second question. So, you know, again, I don't know how generalizable this is, because I was doing something so specific in a community of mostly academics. And so it was very rigorous, and I think the science is absolutely excellent that's coming from that group. But you know, I'm also biased. I did science there. But I will say that the one thing that's different is that you have to recognize, if you go into industry, your job is to be part of this bigger machine that certainly has overarching goals of developing therapeutics. In this case, you know, for Regeneron, it was finding new drugs, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the overarching mission of the company that you're working for. It's not like having your own lab where you decide what that mission is. So you know, it did happen, for example, that I was doing something really interesting that I thought was very interesting, and then was told to reprioritize my time and my efforts towards something else because the direction had changed. And that had to be okay, because I was part of a bigger team and effort that had to be going in the same direction. I couldn't just be going off on my own and deciding what I thought was the best thing to do next. So that's a huge difference, and it does take, you know, coming to terms with if you've come, you know, from your own lab in an academic environment where you're the decider. You're not the decider in industry. Somebody else is going to be the decider, unless you're the CEO. Then sure, you're the decider.
Yeah, that's very, very, very important to know. Then to follow that point, then should that conversation or, you know, kind of a mutual understanding or agreement happened before you take that position during the interview, or you know, like
a mutual agreement with Mount Sinai?
No, the mutual agreement to the vision, or, you know, like your specific, I mean, clearly your job duties, but what's still, when you're saying you need to line up with, you know, the company's change vision, right?
Yeah, I think usually the, you know, expectations are pretty clear, and again, you know, things it's just much more corporate environment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you find any particular good moment, a good timing to really dig into this this subject to reach the kind of the mutual agreement.
If you like in an industry position, you mean? If you're exploring an industry position? Yeah, I mean, I think you have to kind of understand what the expectations are before going into any position. And that I think usually it's pretty clear what those expectations would be, and what your role would be within a group or a team or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. I have limited experience from this one sojourn into industry, but I don't think that I don't think it's that complicated. Usually, you kind of know what area you're going into and what the direction is and what you'll be contributing.
That makes sense. Thank you. Can I ask the second question?
Yes.
Thank you. That's definitely more relevant. I guess, that's would be the subject more exciting to you in terms of the personal medicine. So yeah, do you have any involvement of the personal medicine in the realm of neutral genomics, like the nutritional genomics?
Oh, no. Really
How do you
interesting.
think about
I don't know the evidence base for that. I don't know it very well at all, so I'm really not the best person to speak about it. It's not something that I've ever really looked into personally. It's interesting. There's a lot of interest in there, but I don't know how much evidence there is pushing that forward yet. So I'll be interested to see. There are companies now offering all kinds of predictive genomics for nutrition, other things, skincare, like whatever it is you want. I think there's a lot of money there, but I don't know that there's actual reason to believe in some of those ideas yet, or at least I'm not super aware of it.
Great.
Question.
Great. I also see that Tiffane has had a hand raised. I want to make sure, but we'll make sure we get everybody's questions.
Okay. I'll ask the question, or you want to? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
My question was like, what type of advice can you give to like young researcher to be a more faculty member? On your story, it looked like it was like a chance, or like, but I'm sure it's not a chance. You make the chance. So the thing is like, do you see what you did, or you just like didn't realize what you did make give you the opportunity? And if you know what, can you share with us?
Tiffany, do you mean to getting your first faculty position? Like, what do you need to do to get there? And...
Yeah, yes, and also the opportunity for you to come back. So it was.
Yeah.
You said, oh, after I have an opportunity, oh yeah, it came on my door, but I'm sure it's not like that. So
no, you're right. You're right. It's not like that. It's, I've worked hard to do a lot of the things that I do, and that's part of it, right? Like partly on you to be successful in whatever it is you do, to have opportunities, but specifically the opportunity to come back to Mount Sinai was there because I had active collaborations with some folks at Mount Sinai, like Emer Tiffane, whom you know. She and I had continued to collaborate and talk about things, and I think that when Mount Sinai's vision towards genomic medicine and personalized medicine was expanding, because I'd been here for so long and was sort of like very junior and early on trying to move in that direction, it seemed probably internally like a good idea to reach out and say, are you movable back to Mount Sinai to do this? Would you be interested? So it wasn't by accident. It was because I already had those connections because I'd already been here, and not just been here, I'd done well here. So, I was somebody that Mount Sinai, not all of Mount Sinai broadly, but certain people at Mount Sinai wanted to bring back now that things were in place to sort of drive that vision forward. So I think that's what happened there. I mean, advice for someone who's I know you're doing your postdoc and figuring out your next steps in the coming years. I think a lot of it is networking and making sure that you're exposed to the right people and places and looking around. So I think it's more relevant what I was doing right after training to find my first job. I had to look for what was out there and who were the people that I knew were doing something similar to what I wanted to be doing. And then I just reached out to them and I said, I'm finishing training. This is what I want to do. This is what I see as the future. Is there room for me in your institution, in your group, in your department? And people were really open to that, surprisingly so. I thought I would like cold call people and they'd say, no, we don't have a position like that. But it turns out you don't just have to look for those positions. People will create positions for you if your vision and your expertise is aligned with their needs or what they think they could want in the future. So putting yourself out there, which isn't always easy, and getting support from mentors and champions who will also expose you to other people who can help you in that journey, I think are really important.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I had a similar question, so thank you, Tiffany.
Oh, good.
Just advice, and in general, how do you put yourself out there and network and connect? And I think now with everything being virtual, it's a little harder. So just any tips?
Yeah, I agree. It is a little bit harder, but in some ways there are opportunities like this that didn't exist before. So we're all zoomed out. And frankly, if you ask me, like, would you like to be on Zoom at 5 p.m. to talk to more people? Usually the answer is no. But for a group like this, the answer was absolutely, because I think it's so important and overjoyed to be able to help in any small way I can to the future in medicine and research.
Well, with that, I would like to thank you for sharing your beautiful story of sort of traveling through all these different areas and being able to be so wise and share so many lessons of life and academia and industry and physician scientists and genomics and everything all in 1 hour. So I think that we all are better people as a result of this time with you and are so appreciative of all that you have to share. And thank you for your generosity in speaking with us over this time.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to have met all of you. And my email is always open to anyone who wants to reach out. I would say my office is open, but put a mask on if you're going to come by.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, and please come back and speak to us some more. And hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.